I'm Harbir Bhatia with ooNee Studios at the Sikh Tech Summit, and I'm sitting with an all-time old friend, Mandeep Dhillon, no longer just a serial entrepreneur, he's also a transformer. So let's talk to him today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So first of all, let's talk about what brought you here.
It's an amazing opportunity. I still remember when we moved to the Bay Area in 2000, and a young Sikh guy at the time started this conference, and we thought, what a fabulous chance to get people together. And I really think for the first time in 13 years, we're really getting another group of entrepreneurs together to talk about how they're experiencing their journey.
So in your company today, you've seen a lot of changes. You were before with Togetherville.
Right.
Before that, you started your career in McKinsey.
Right.
With that history and your current company, what can you share? What is it about? What drives you?
Yeah, I think really about having the opportunity to make an impact is a really big deal. Ultimately, at the end of the day, everyone has the same 24 hours, and we decide how we get to spend them. And I'm very fortunate because of my background to be able to do a lot of things. So because I'm an attorney and a consultant, I was able to build a strong foundation. And then on top of that, I decided to really focus on something that I thought was going to make a difference in the world. And back in about 2006, I realized that the way my children were going to be growing up with technology was a fascinating area for me. And I've dedicated the last 8 years to building products around how that experience could be better for everybody, the parents, the kids, and the entire environment they're growing up in.
So today in your panel discussion, what was the key message? What were you really here to share with everyone?
The panel topic that we focused on today was on product market fit, and the idea ultimately is that you don't come up with a brilliant idea, you make good products over time. And how do you find ways to iterate through? It starts with a vision, it focuses on dedication, and really this determination that you're going to make a difference. And it's not about yourself, it's about the problem you're trying to solve. And so for me, really, we built a variety of different applications over the many years that I've been working on this to find different ways to improve people's life, with the hope that you find something that resonates, that people will appreciate and enjoy, and ultimately that you can build a sustainable venture on top of.
So I know we didn't really discuss this before, but if I was to ask you, I mean, what's changed now, except for the fact that obviously your children are very important to you? Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you see differently than maybe when you started your career?
I started off as a non-technologist. In very traditional careers, was really in college at the very first time that people started to use technology in a very consumer way. Grew up, through the first tech boom, being outside of tech and living in Silicon Valley. And when we started to really focus on the transformation that was happening with children in technology, broadband was beginning to grow. People began to have home access, and kids were beginning to get used to computers at home. Fast forward, literally just 5 or 6 years later, and you have a rapid transformation driven by mobile. And so you have an entire generation of young people who are growing up with devices that we couldn't have even imagined before. There was a great quote by Elon Musk saying, in 1969, if you asked the general population, what would 2013 look like? Well, that said, we would have an active colony on the moon, right? And we would have, multiple trips going back and forth to Mars, and we'd probably have some idea that we would be doing things, because at that point in time, we were really making tremendous growth in space exploration, which has changed. He goes, but if you told them that you were going to have something the size of a deck of cards that would be in your pocket that would allow you to have real-time communication with anybody in the world, they'd tell you that you were lying. Right? And so in a really short period of time, we're actually dealing with a set of tools that no one could have even imagined just a very short time ago, and our kids are the primary beneficiary of that. The problem is, since we as adults haven't used them, we don't have really effective ways of helping kids use them, and that's what we focus on.
So through this journey, outside of the fact, as I said, obviously you've seen a life-changing with a family, but what has inspired you? Because you obviously keep changing. That's why I was saying you're a transformer.
Right. The idea of disrupting things makes a big difference to me, and whether it's because I'm a Sikh or because of where I grew up, we've always grown up different, right? And the idea is that different is actually a good thing, and different is the constant. And so how do you become part of that? Because if I feel myself doing the same things that a lot of other people are doing for a long time, I'm like, well, they could do that. What am I doing that's different? And so for me, it inspires me to be able to say, look, there's a lot of people covering a lot of issues that are important to them. And if I take a conventional approach to anything that I'm doing, it really kind of makes me wonder, well, why wouldn't I change all of those things? Whether it's the way my kids are growing up, or whether it's the type of work we do, or the type of people I hire. I really look at unconventional because I think unconventional accelerates change.
So it sounds like the Sikhi angle has been actually a source of strength for you. Sure. I mean, I remember when we were kids and we were always trying different things. I mean, You've tried the camps, you've done so many things still going on actually. Sure. In terms of, beyond it just being inspiring to you, can you give some examples of things that have really helped you?
What's interesting is when you face any challenge or any adversity, it creates some hopefully motivation or desire. I grew up in rural North Carolina in the 1970s, and there were 7 large billboards in the town that I lived in 1975 that says the Ku Klux Klan welcomes you to Smithfield, North Carolina, and that's the town that I grew up in. And ultimately, when you start to think about why you want to do something, it's because that change is interesting. And people said, "Oh, growing up in the South, how does it feel to now?" And I said, "Well, the South has become a lot more tolerant, but I don't actually want to be tolerated." Right? And I don't want my kids to have to feel like they're being tolerated. So for me, it's really this mission of like, how do you drive outside of that? How do you build opportunities? Whether it's in business or in the community, you hold yourself up to a standard that allows other people to kind of change the way they think about you. And being a Sikh gives you that opportunity better than any other platform I can imagine. And so for myself, I want to hold myself to that, and I want to inspire my kids to do the same.
That's wonderful. So my last question is actually, for those that are watching this program, how would you guide them? What is a key takeaway in terms of opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to be an innovator, or an intrapreneur? What would you suggest?
I think the first thing is just starts with a choice. You have to make a decision at the end of the day that you're going to do something that you're afraid of doing, right? Push yourself beyond those general fears, because we live in a time and we live in a society where change is really accepted. It's expected, but very few people are willing to step up. And generally it takes that one step ahead that puts you different pace with everybody else. Make the step. There's really not that big of a failure left anymore, right? I mean, whether it's personal finances or family risk or whatever it is, we can mitigate those failures, but the thing you can't mitigate is regret, right? So over time, just try to take that chance to do something that you haven't been allowing yourself to do, because figuring out later that you should have done something that you didn't do, you can't undo.
That's a great way to close this interview. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.